Greetings everyone, and Grade here. I've always mentioned I always thought the Mongols in Age of Empires 4 are not good. Let's talk about it. First, let's break down the civilization. What's good about it, what's bad about it, and what are their uniqueness to make them stand out compared to other civilizations. First, let's talk about their economics. They do have no requirements for housing. They do have access to the Yovo to provide stone generation. Pastures as an alternative to farms. They do have free trade benefits for having more traders. Trade bounties will provide them some extra resources and the improved research system. Free housing is a very nice benefit, but it's also somewhat difficult to gauge how free housing is, of course, more effective if you start building a large number of units. It's less effective if you don't build a large amount of units. Simple enough. So if you're being more aggressive, building more military units, trying to attack your opponent, it can be very nice to have. But if you're just eyeing for some sort of fast castle strategy, the effectiveness is actually quite minimal since you only need a couple housing in a normal civilization. The Yovo is probably the most identifiable, unique structure for the Mongols. It provides a small trickle of stone, roughly equivalent to 2 villagers' stone income. It does increase per age, however, it is still roughly 2 villagers per age. While it is very effective in the early game, starting at minute 0, where you start off 6 villagers, giving you a quick bump up to 8 villagers effective income, it does degrade over time pretty quickly as you get up to 100 villagers in Pural Age, or perhaps earlier. One of the uniqueness of the Mongolian civilization is the improved research system. Almost all upgrades have a unique improved version of it, costing 100% original cost but entirely made out of stone, and generally provides up to 50% of the original value of the upgrade, but this is not always the case. You can see down here there is the economic tech, Age 4 economic tech, which will improve the collection rate of mining by 7.5%, while the improved wheelbarrow counterpart only provides plus 4 carrying capacity rather than plus carrying capacity and movement speed. Pastures are the Mongolian alternative to farms. It does cost 150 wood each, while regular farms cost 75. Here's some basic stats I grabbed from the wiki. Without any sort of food collection technology, 3 villagers can be supported 1 pasture, effectively making a pasture cost 50 wood each per villager, which is actually a little bit better than a regular farm. But next to Ovo will give you 4 villagers worth of food collection, making it very cost effective, very similar to English. But this effectiveness is reduced as you start researching more of the economic texts. Generally, when I cast a Mongolian high-level play, most Mongolian players don't even get basic economic research, let alone the improved versions of those economic research. This put Pastures in a relatively weird state. It actually starts very unique, very cost-effective in Feudal Age. However, they actually become more generic as the ages progress and people start researching economic texts. Something they do. In which, if you get all of your economic text research, they actually become more costly than standard farms, providing less than 2 villagers worth of food income. Mongols are known to have very good trade. They get more effective trade with the more traders they have on the field, capping out at 15 traders for the maximum effect. Additionally, they get access to a plus 10/plus 20% of research in Pural Age. I would advise you not to research the stone commerce improved research. It does cost 1,000 stone. It takes about 3 minutes for 30 traders to give you a refund. That stone is probably best spent somewhere else in the meantime. Every time you set a building ablaze, you do get a bit of income. The starting out value is 25 food and 25 gold. This can be improved with prepared research. I'd advise not to go for the raid bounty research. It will give you plus 25 food and gold as well per raid. However, it does cost 350 resources of those same resources. You have to set ablaze 7 buildings to make it give you a refund, which, to be honest, is actually quite difficult. Most games do not even get 7 buildings destroyed. Most games tend to have the game decided well before that point. Though there is a case to be made with the raid bounties improved. It does cost 350 stone, however, that allows you to convert stone into other resources. Still takes 7 buildings to get the total cost in return, but you can immediately utilize that food and gold into producing more units. To go along with the raid bounty research, there's also stone bounty and stone bounty improve. Every time you set a blaze to a building, you get 50 stone or 75 stone. I'd advise that the stone bounty research is not half bad if you want to convert the food and gold into stone, like raid bounties, improved, but do not go for the improved stone bounties, since it does give you plus 25 stone per raid, however it does cost 325 stone, which will make 13 structures required to be set ablaze in order to make this bounty return its bounty. So how does all of these benefits, economic benefits, compare to other civilizations and their economic benefits? I have a brief list here, but I will cover some individual civilizations in the next coming slides. Let's first compare the pasture to the English farms. At first, they seem very similar. Both of them roughly cost about 37.5 wood per villager, though the English farms have better scalability with better collection rates. The Mongols improve stone research for the increased food collection rate does not even compare, especially in cost. While the Mongolians' farming rate does increase by 7.5 per research to a maximum of 20.5, the maximum for the English is 30%. Additionally, they can get additional gold per minute with the enclosed research in Pural Age. The cost of the improved stone collection is incredibly high, costing a total of 700 for the final research, for example. Though pastures do have capability of storing sheep for later, so you can go for an early pasture, making an easier transition going from natural food sources to more controlled food sources. And a similar note, now let's cover pastures versus olive groves. Olive groves are cheaper than regular farms, and they offer just a flat plus 20% drop-off rate. Drop-off rate is different than collection rate, which tends to make it a little bit better in my opinion, since it just provides extra resources for doing no additional task. The pastures are of course cheaper to begin with, but become a bit more generic layered on, as we mentioned beforehand. And to match the plus 20% drop-off rate for the olive grove, the Mongols will of course have to base and research all their stone food collection research, which becomes increasingly more and more costly. Additionally, the plus 20% drop-off rate for olive oil is free and immediate, as opposed to even getting to the final research for the Mongols is in Age 4. Additionally, the Byzantines get a plus 20% olive oil trader income. Of course, the Mongols do have a slightly better plus 30% with the fact that their traders can move faster. However, as mentioned beforehand, Mongol traders have no walls to protect them, which makes them very hard to keep alive. Mongol trade is epitome of a double-edged sword. When compared to other civilizations, some of the best economy found in the game is actually the Abbasid dynasty. They can start out with an early feudal age, getting plus 50% collection rate for all resources, in which the Mongols are going to pay a massive amount of stone to even just compete with that. Eventually they do get plus 20% in sometime late Imperial Age. The Mongols technically can get slightly better for all resources, but they're going to have to pay a mountain's worth of stone in order to get that eating. The Abbasid dynasty and the Mongols have very, very comparable traders. Mongols and Abbasid have very comparable traders. I personally think Abbasid dynasty is the best civilization for trading. They also have the best free civilization bonuses for regular economic research. When it comes to the traders between the two, first let's talk about the traders' costs. The Abbasid dynasty does have a 33% less cost for all traders. The Mongols can get a minus 20% total cost for their traders with the Age 2 silver tree. With the economic wing for the Abs dynasty, they can get immediate plus 25% of all other resources. One in particular, I should say, while the Mongols, of course, can get plus 30% in total. In Age 4, they do get access to a plus 30% increased gold. And Age 4 for the Mongols, we got plus 10 or plus 20% stone. I don't really consider the improved stone research, but it is very comparable. In total, the Mongols can get up to plus 50% effective traders, while the Abbasid dynasty can get up plus 55%. Mongols can get cheaper traders through a landmark, while the Abbasid dynasty just have inherently reduced cost traders. The disadvantages between the two are very similar, and one landmark versus one wing is very similar as well. Abbasid dynasty does also have some other economic benefits to help compete with the Mongols' inherent benefits as well. The economic wing can give you reduced cost in farms, housing, town centers. The farms and pastures can make some comparison, but I more want to point out the town center. Mongol town centers do cost 900 wood, which is actually an increase of 150 total resources compared to other civilizations' town centers. Additionally, wood is a bit more difficult to collect up than stone for most civilizations due to the fact that each time you start collecting from trees, they have a progressively longer collection time, with every tree getting farther and farther away. Additionally, the Abbasid dynasty do have plus 50% increased farming speed in Age 3, which is cheap and a bit more effective than even the stone improve food collection rate than the Mongols even have. And if I top it on off, they get plus 8% increased resource drop off for all resources. It does cost 1,000 resources, so it is quite significant, but it is just very good. Additionally, they do also have free fire armor to dissuade raids, which the Mongols sometimes do have to rely on raiding, get a bit of extra money. In this case, that effect is also minimized as well. Abbasid dynasty really feels like a better version of the Mongols in most aspects, in my opinion. Mongols and Japanese are actually very similar when it comes to their food collection bonuses and their costs. Mongols, of course, have the increasing stone cost for their various improved collection rate. I'll just stop reiterating at that point in time. And let's talk about the wheelbarrow for the Japanese versus the Mongols. The Japanese wheelbarrow is different. It does actually become a bit more expensive than the standard wheelbarrow, but of course does improve berry collection rate, which is variable and map dependent to really get good usage out of it. But in the total end result, they do have much faster moving villagers, as each upgrade does add plus 3 carrying capacity, plus 7% movement speed, and plus 25% berry gathering rate. Let's just take a look at the carrying capacity versus movement speed. The first upgrade is 2550, the second upgrade is 5100. Wheelbarrow is 5100, or 5150. So the cost in order to get wheelbarrow for Japanese is slightly higher, and the benefits are a little bit negligible, but of course they get an improved wheelbarrow version in Castle Age. And the Mongol improved wheelbarrow version will cost 200 stone, only gets plus 4 carrying capacity. Now let's take a look at their differences in the food collection rate. Japan's a little bit different, where they have to upgrade town centers with stone in order to improve their food collection rate. They do not get traditional food collection increases. It increases their farming rate by 25%, 50%, and then 75%, which sounds really high, but if you remove the plus 15% for each collection rate research, effectively only giving plus 10% food collection rate per upgrade, which is actually very similar to the Mongols' improved food collection rate. The first upgrade, the effective cost is 150 stone versus the Mongols' 150 stone, 10% versus 7.5. 250 stone versus 350, 100 stone reduction for the Japanese with additional 10% effectiveness, more effective. And same thing, 500 versus 700, being cheaper as well. Granted, the Japanese do have the farther distances to collect up food than the Mongols, especially the Mongols of the Pastures have good rally points. And the Japanese tend to go double stack farms in order to improve the collection rates, which makes their improved research wheelbarrow for faster movement speed very useful to help counter out that. So ultimately, these are very similar research, I'll have to say. Now let's compare the Mongols to the Ottomans. You wonder, how can you compare the two? Military schools do provide resources per minute in direct unit fabrication, which is not exactly comparable, but it is actually comparable to the Mongols' Ovo. Ovo's course limited 1 costs 150 wood and provides variable amount of stone. Military schools do cost 250 each, and you can get up to 5 of them if you go for the Vizier as well. At Age 1 provides roughly 80 resources per minute for the military school, which is actually in par with a single Ovo, with a slightly more cost. Age 2, two military schools, along with a blacksmith affecting them, roughly provides 160 resources per minute. The improved production rate, and it is rough estimations, is the reason why it only goes up by 100%, because that's two military schools. The effects are very minimal, so just assume these are just rough estimates, as there's not any real one-to-one comparison. For the military schools don't require also blacks or barracks in order to produce those units. In Age 3, just assume 4 military schools, with the +1 military school Vizier, roughly providing 400 resources per minute, and in Age 4, assume 5 military schools with the faster training, +1 military school Vizier, can give you roughly around 600 resources per minute. This does not include any sort of landmark like the observatory or any other special case, while the Ovo is just flat percentage, very limited and very not flexible like stone. Now let's talk about the mullions. The mullions mining pit and the Ovo are very similar. I am not including the cost of the housing and the mining camp to go around the mining pit, because of the fact that you generally build those items either way to collect the gold and to provide housing. Fully encompassed mining pit does provide 102 gold per minute. Effectively, if you get all of them up, that's about 400 gold per minute. The Ovos are very static and can only provide a certain amount of stone per minute, and they don't last forever. The Mullion traders are improved as well. Naturally, they get increased drop-off rate for taxes up to 40% for traveling by a toll outpost, which is actually very similar to Mongolians' Yam network to improve their movement speed. You tend to go for about 5 or 6 outposts to make your traders move faster. Mongolians just need to walk by them and you get additional value. There is an Age 2 landmark to improve the Mongolian traders. Additionally, they have access to walls. Mongolians, once again, does not. The effectiveness of the trade between the two are very similar, plus 40%, potentially plus 60% with Age 2 landmark, versus the Mongolians plus 50 to 60% based on research and a number of traders, of course. They of course can make theirs cheaper and build faster with the silver tree. Additionally, the Mullions do have access to cattle ranches, which is nothing really comparable with the Mongolians, provide extra food per minute, while the Mongolians just have to pay for stone to get better collection rates. Now let's start talking about the unique upgrades and units that the Mongolians can provide. This is what most people focus on when they talk about the civilization differences. I put a lot of emphasis on economics because that also influences how much and what you can deploy on the field. But now to the fun stuff. And let's first talk about Dark Age. The Mongols do have a unique unit in Dark Age, the Early Horseman. The Early Horseman is, of course, an Early Horseman. Stats are pathetically bad like most Dark Age units, and it is effective at hitting exposed villagers. Problem is, the only civilization will have exposed villagers is actually probably Mongols. Mongols tend to have their town center go one direction, the gear going the other direction. One heads to food or wood, the other one heads to the gold. So really, the early horsemen are only really good in Mongol mirror matchups. Of course, everyone knows about the Khan, give you access to various benefits, automatically levels up and ages up. And of course, the ×2 units. The ×2 spearmen are probably the most common in Dark Age, which is useful to help raiding, harassing, and getting a proxy outpost fully garrisoned outside your opponent's town center. ×2 scouts can be utilized. I have done this myself, in hybrid maps, hybrid water land maps, because scouts do have full torch damage and offer a cheaper cost for that torches and more mobility, perfect hitting the open docks to try to set them ablaze. They are reasonably durable, they can engage villagers 1v1 no problem, and thus ×2 scouts are a possibility in hybrid maps. Now let's get to the age where everything starts really kicking off from most games. Feudal Age. Kashyyyks are cheaper but weaker heavy cavalry. Decent cavalry, good at raiding, good attack speed, good damage. Cheaper than knights, but of course weaker than knights. And the Magadai, a unit I always say is worthless throughout most entirety of the game. The Magadai do have a 0.88 attack speed, which is incredibly fast, but they have low range and low damage, making it so they actually are not that effective against most targets. They're only really good against hitting villagers, and primarily against traders. It almost looks like Mongols are designed to fight Mongols, honestly, since their traders tend to be more exposed, and the Magadai do a great job at hitting traders, as well as some exposed villagers. And of course, we do have the Whistling Arrow upgrade for the Khan to give you some pretty good benefits to your Whistling Arrow. Doubling the duration is quite significant. I think people really miss out on this upgrade. They really should go for this upgrade more often, because 10 seconds duration lasts forever, especially in the small engagements where most engagements will get decided within the first 10 seconds either way. It's going to help you win some of those earlier fights and later fights. Please get the research more often. Castle Age. Probably the age that provides the least amount of benefits to the Mongols in my opinion. You do get access to the Steppe Lancer's research, improving the attack speed and heal per attack with the Kashyyyks. It's relatively small, but it's nice to have. Yam Network can be applied to your infantry, allow them to run around a little bit more easy around your base. And Traction Trebuchets. Traction Trebuchets are a cheaper trebuchet, costing only 400 total resources, but they are weaker, have a higher attack speed, and less range. And now let's get into the Pural Age. Pural Age course give you access to some very research, the important university technology, which are some of them can be improved. And let's talk about the more nitty-gritty details in Castle Age. Steppe Lance improves does of course improve your Kashyyyks even further, attack speed and health on hit. And improved biology can give you plus 30% heal health on your cavalry, which does also apply to Magadai, which is very, very unique, having a very healthy horse archer. In comparison, Royal Bloodlines for the French is plus 35%, so it's not as good as them, but your Kashyyyks are not going to be 1v1 with the Royal Knights either way, being a cheaper and weaker version. But it does give you access to some very healthy horsemen to go along with your cavalry. Additionally, the Magadai do get a unique research here, both a regular and improved version. Issue your bow limbs. It gives your Magadai plus 2 damage as well as your Khan. Your Khan gets 28 base damage in this age, goes from 2, 3, 6, then 28 as the base damage based on per age. Quite a bit of a leap there, honestly, but to be fair, the Khan is not really used for combat through the entirety of the game, even if it does have some good fighting capabilities. The sheer bow limbs do compound with incendiary arrows, which actually does give a bit of a multiplicative effect. So what is the best way to Magadai? Step 1. Find a trading post with Magadai. Step 2. Start constructing the Royal Hippodrome. Step 4. Activate Triumph and just run on by. This will give your Magadai plus 4 damage, go along with a really high attack speed to quickly annihilate all villagers. That is correct. In my opinion, the best way to use Magadai is not to use a Mongol Magadai, but the mercenary Magadai along with the Royal Hippodrome for the Byzantine. I've repeatedly mentioned that Magadai are not a good unit. How do they compare to the other units that the Mongols can deploy on the field? I have a nice little spreadsheet here. That is correct. In my opinion, the best way to use Magadai is not to use a Mongol Magadai, but the mercenary Magadai along with the Royal Hippodrome for the Byzantine. Cost per DPS is How much resources does each point of DPS is worth? Magadai versus 3 range armor does 14 DPS. Archers do less, but 80% more effective versus light melee, evening it out a little bit. Crossbows do 9 damage, 80% more effective against heavy, which you should probably look at 7 DPS in that figure. And hand cannoneers do damage all around. Hand cannoneers are definitely the most population effective tool that the Mongols can deploy in the field. Magadai are good generalist unit, costs a bit more than archers and crossbows, but can offer more health and a bit more damage versus the other not effective target. Additionally, they have good mobility, can shoot while moving, but they do also have only 3.5 range, which can make it a bit more difficult to use. Magadai, they can be considered like a cheaper hand cannoneer that can move and shoot. They have some flexibility there, but sometimes you just need raw damage from the hand cannoneer. Additionally, the Magadai do take quite a bit of extra research, while hand cannoneers do offer very little research to get them up and going, just chemistry, while Magadai requires your bow limbs, incendiary arrows, as well as their own elite research. And the Blacksmith features to boot if you want to add those on in. Either way, let's just give you a bit of a breakdown. If you're going for cost effectiveness, the Magadai is actually a good alternative to the archer and crossbow, but you want population effectiveness, the hand cannoneer will win out hands down. Now let's talk about the Mongol mana arms. Most people forget that the fact that the Mongols do have the improved elite army research, giving plus 10% health and damage for 1,000 stone, which is quite expensive, but how does it compare up? For the Mongols and generic, of course, Mongols will always beat generic when the elite improve army tactics research. The Delhi have generic mana arms, however, they do have a landmark which can provide them a melee upgrade giving plus 3 damage, which will make them superior to the elite army tactics improved research of the Mongols. So if the Delhi players mass producing mana arms that have this research, and you're trying to beat him out economically, probably a good idea to not go with mana arms. Granted, this is assuming that you're only both sides just producing mana arms and nothing else, which is unlikely. But if the Delhi player is going for mass mana arms, avoid going mass mana arms yourself, unless you're using it as a meat shield. The English, the premier mana arms civilization, they do have the plus 2 armor. In actuality, the Mongols will beat the plus 2 armor of the English mana arms. However, that's assuming they're not next to the network of castles. If they're next to the network of castles, the English will win out. So the Mongol mana arms, if they have the improved elite army tactics, is superior to the English mana arms in a case of defense, not in case of offensively attacking the English. Page 2 of the mana arms. First, let's actually talk about the non-mana arms as well. The Varangian Guard for the Byzantines. Varangian Guard have less health, but do have plus 1 armor and a little bit extra damage. The base damage is higher for the Varangian Guard than the Mongols. You know as well this game does have percentages and not just static flat values. So these decimals are important. The comparison to is they actually both die to 16 hits from each other. Granted, that also assumes nothing else is going on, but the Byzantine players mass producing Varangian mana arms, or Varangian Guard, not mana arms, the elite army tactics will give you an equal opposition and actually make it a bit more cost effective since mana arms are cheaper than Varangian Guard. The other guard, the Palace Guard for the Chinese and Zuzi's Legacy, has a large number of variables to it. The first number you see for the health is just generic, second value is with battle harden, and the third value is with the Ming Dynasty for the Chinese. Down below it, the attack is increased for Ming Dynasty for the Zuzi's Legacy, so we do also have the damage for that. Rate of fire is still the same. In comparison, the generic Palace Guard is inferior to the Mongol mana arms, because the Palace Guard are just simply 1 armor less mana arms with high mobility. And the high mobility is the nice thing about the Palace Guard, which is not exactly useful in these Excel spreadsheet matchups. In the versus the Chinese in particular, with Battle Hardened, the Mongolian man at arms is actually still superior. When fighting against Ming Dynasty Battle Hardened Palace Guards, they actually become equal. They take equal number of hits, though the equalness, the Mongol have very little overkill damage. So anything that offers a slight breeze against the Palace Guard will make the Mongols will kill them one hit quicker. Suzi's legacy Ming damage still makes the Palace Guard inferior to Mongol man at arms. So Mongol man at arms can be useful against Chinese Zuzi's legacies in general, because most of the time they don't really go to Ming Dynasty all too often. Additionally, there are some of the other man-arms civilizations I've not covered, because those man-arms are straight up better, and you probably should avoid mass-producing your man-arms, such as the Japanese samurai, which gets plus 3 damage versus infantry, plus 1 more base melee blacksmith research. If the Keji from the plus 3 damage from the Daily Sultanate was overmuch, then the samurai will offer even more damage, especially with the other possibilities of the banners. Additionally, the Holy Roman Empire has really powerful man-at-arms. Rather than plus 3 damage, they can get plus 6, which is straight up better. Either way, on to the next section. And now let's talk about the siege for the Mongols and the approved siege. The Mongols, of course, do have improved siege engineers, which allows them to actually field construct the mangonels, springalds, and attraction trebuchets on the field. But when it comes to the improved research, I just put a list on the screen of all the improvements. Just small increases, though don't doubt the lightweight beams improved. Minus 75 field construction time on your infantry is very useful. I have won games where in a big conflict I peeled off a couple spearmen or men-at-arms, hide them back the opponent's base out of vision range, infest your opponent's base from the inside out with some battering rams. Very useful to get also with improved raid bounties, because that's the point where you actually destroy a large number of buildings to make that worth anything. Additionally, I did put down the times to kill with the improved siege works down below. Sprinkle still goes through 3 shots to die. The mangonels will take 1 extra shot if your opponent does not have any arrow blacksmith research. If they have 1, they will 4-shot your mangonels still. Traction trebuchets will go from 4 to 5 hits thanks to the research, so that is the only notable improvement. Bomb bars go 7-8, which is still a significant amount of bolts. Rams, you probably should avoid using sprinkles against mass rams still. Towers, when's the last time you ever built a siege tower? I've only built 1 in multiplayer, in a very niche situation. Either way. And now let's talk about the landmarks for the Mongols. First, the Feudal Age landmarks. Here are stone, which will give you the Yam network research instantly and for free and early, which is for economic reasons. It has very little impact. It can affect berry income and mostly affect wood income. Most other situations, it won't really affect too much of income. A small extra little trickle there with the gold collection with that tiny little bit amount they have to move. The silver tree is a double-edged sword, as I mentioned earlier. It may make your traders build faster and have reduced costs, but you have no way to keep your traders alive without the usage of any walls. There's one reason why I always recommend keep a small garrison of spearmen at the start and end point of your trade routes, in order so that the most likely raiding unit that you're going to be fighting against, horsemen, will run into some spears to finish them off and protect your trade. On to the Castle Age landmarks. We got the Kurultai. The Kurultai gives plus 20% damage to all units, including siege weapons, as well as health regen for all units, including siege weapons. And note, there is no sort of bug if you were to start a scaffolding of a battering ram, let the health regen activate to make it build faster. That doesn't work like that. Cancel it for somehow a higher refund. It doesn't work like that. I tried that one myself in a single player lobby. And of course we got the Steppered Out, which is a 50% plus gold drop off a landmark, which is actually really good. And also it does trading better than the silver tree and generating gold. I actually tend to go for both the silver tree and the steppered out myself. Go for a handful of small amount of traders to just get a little bit of boom going, or go for traders later on with that as a jump off point. And a steppered out is just great for most gold usage. It's actually a bit of a problem with the Mongols. They have 2 landmarks specialized collecting up gold. It's a little bit of overlap there. And now on the premier Imperial Age landmarks. The Cognitive Palace is one of the best landmarks in the entire game, in my opinion. It does provide a constant supply of high value units. It's roughly around 750 resources per minute. It comes upgraded, most units come upgraded with their unique counterpart research, like the Rus Knights have Boyar's Fortitude, so do the Rus Warrior Priests. The Warrior Priests do not have access to the various Abbey of the Saint or Abbey of the Trinity unique landmarks research, but the Knights do have the pole axes giving +4 base damage as well, so it's a pretty good landmark there. And the White Stupa provides a steady 240 stone per minute, and most professionals I see tend to go for this landmark. They use it to spam the crap out of outposts in order to protect their trade a bit fruitlessly most of the time. It does give you a nice bit of stone, more stone than a Yovo, but this is how bad the stone economy is for the Mongols, that this is the White Stupas tend to be a more common landmark, when the other one provides clearly more value, but they're still desperate to get any sort of stone. So what is my advice on playing the Mongols? Be very aggressive. In order for you to use trade, if you want eye for trade, you have to be aggressive. Your opponent crowd in their base and they can't go out attacking your trading. That's the only way you can protect your traders, since you have no walls to protect them. You can always send the outposts, but outposts are very fragile and they cannot be upgraded with stone, at least not in a traditional manner, in order to keep those traders alive. You can maximize your free housing. Rather than try and go for mass quantity of Keshiks to enter resources, you can actually go for a mass quantity of archers or spearmen. Since you don't have to worry about producing housing to house all those units, you can actually get quite a good number of them on the field at a quicker rate than your opponents. After all, each spearman and archer costs 80 resources. Each house provides 10 housing. So effectively, it makes it so the housing is, additional 5 resources on every single spearman and archer? Effectively, you are making your spearmen and archers at a reduced rate. The stone economic research, I believe, is a research that people should go for, primarily the cheaper ones, because the effects are the same, but the cost is increased. The basic ones, 150 stone for additional 7.5 collection rate, is actually not half bad. If you go for a steppered out silver tree, you can probably skip on the gold and improve research, but getting the food and wood, it's probably worth it. And please get the Whistling Arrow research, at least the basic. You don't have to go for the improved one, since that only improves the duration by 2 seconds. But 10-second Whistling Arrows are really good. Additionally, I forgot to mention, put a line here, Navy. You can really maximize the free housing more so on water maps than you do on land maps. Ships do take up quite a bit of population housing space, and you can get quite a good navy on the field. The Mongols have one of the better navies in the game, especially in Feudal Age. The piracy research makes it so you actually get pretty good amount of reward for taking your opponent's fishing ships. And with the no housing costs, you have very little constraints to start mass producing arrow ships. With the synopsis done and all the comparisons completed, how would I change the Mongols? First off, the improved research system is not very well done. The cost primarily is quite absurd for most of the research. Additionally, the stone is not very accessible, so that has to be a bit more of a common resource the Mongols claim. Landmarks primarily the Age 2 landmarks are a little bit inadequate. Additionally, some of the natural bonuses the Mongols will get, I will actually need to remove so that can be implement more scalable upgrades. The icons for all the stone base upgrades and units, I believe should have a gray color to them, a new color scheme for this, and of course more upgrades in Age 2 and 3, since most civilizations do have an upgrade or two in Age 2 or 3 in order to make some more uniqueness to their units. The end result? Think of this. Step upgrades for the steppe people. Let's first talk about the Mongol town centers. The villager stone cost is too high, but also not suitable for the initial town center. That's why I would say the initial town center should not have any ×2 units, but only make that available to the secondary town centers, the non-landmark town center. So this way the ×2 villagers can have a bit more of an adequate price. Additional town centers also cost 900 wood for the Mongols, as opposed to all other civilizations have a total cost of 750. Wood is more increasingly difficult to collect as the drop-off distance gets greater. So I would say the additional town centers could have their costs reduced down to 750. Additionally, in order to make a bit more uniqueness, the Khan is an effective supporting unit, but it is very limited to being one unit. Every new town center will provide a free respawning Khan, like the initial landmark town center. This way there can be a bit more usage of the Khan, and while be able to more tied to expansion as well, where every town center should have a Khan potentially leading it if you want to view it as more lore-like. Now on to the gears. The gears are incredibly frustrating to move around. Please fix. There's a couple workarounds you could do where the gear have a special deployment cycle where it is much more forceful at pushing everything away, or maybe it starts constructing and then force everything away. This concept may work out since it's a smaller structure, and additionally since resource collection, having it being able to deploy redeploy is a bit more important, and it may influence some combat effectiveness in this matter because since it does have 0 pierce armor, range armor while moving around, but this usually gear is either alive or dead, rarely ever in between, so I believe this would be fine. In the meantime, one workaround in order to make gears a bit more accessible if the deploy-redeployment is not really addressable, reduce the cost from 100 wood down to 75. Because at this point in time, it is much more convenient to build a whole new gear rather than trying to move one around, just because how frustrating the damn thing is to move around. I may have put a little bit too much emphasis onto the improved collection resource rate upgrades in the comparison section, but I do believe it's well founded. After all, it is incredibly costly, especially the final tier of 700 stone each for a 7.5 resource advanced collection rate. So here's how I would just change it. 1. I'll make it a 4-step research rather than 3, available in Dark Age, and each upgrade provides plus 5% drop off. This will make it so the resources of the map last longer rather than collected up quickly, as well as providing good economic benefit. Because the Mongols are the nomadic civilization, they should be more on the map, trying to claim up the resource on the map. And this way it can make the resources last on the map longer, rather than immediately trying to, say, build 100 farms or pastures and then turtle up at home. Now with all the improved research now outright removed, I would recommend putting a handful of new replacement research that does scale a bit better and have a bit more reasonable costs. First research I would recommend is Nomadic Collection. This will replace improved hunting survival techniques, which will provide actually more collection rate for huntables than the current improved survival techniques, but should also be applied to berries and shorefish. This way, you can make use of more of the natural food resources on the map, or at least rapidly seize them. The next upgrade to replace improved wheelbarrow, I'll call it Long Haul, plus 10 carrying capacity for villagers. This will help collect up the resources in the field better for the various longer distance resources, Not necessarily gold or pastures, but for like deer, berries, and wood, so there's less return trips to the gears, which are already frustrating to move around. To replace the improved textiles research, I'll just give a new upgrade called Field Tending. Villagers and traders get 1 health regen while on combat. There's also replace the improved Yam Network research. Make it one nice tidy package. Now let's talk to another very big section, the Yovo, the ×2 units, and stone. The problem is, the Yovo, you can only build one of them, and you have a very limited supply of stone to either spend on ×2 units or on some of those improved research. Generally, in most of the high level play, the professionals tend to only build ×2 units. They rarely even touch most of the improved research. Hell, they sometimes don't even get the basic economic collection research as well. So, this is what I recommend first. Increase the build limit by +1 per age, or simply leave it uncapped. Probably +1 per age would make most sense. This will give a direct comparison to both the Malians and the Ottoman, hence why I made the comparison earlier in this video. Increase the cost to 200 wood from 150. This way it is also less likely to affect the Dark Age spearmen rushes, or more likely to affect, I should say, and provide the constant 100 stone per minute in all ages, but the Pural Tent do have access to research to improve this. The Yovo historically is a mix of religious and land marker in order to determine territory. It has both religious and territorial applications, so imagine a wolf marking its territory, but rather than with urine, with a giant pile of stone. Once depleted, the Yovo stone reduction should be reduced by 50% rather than 100%. This way it can provide a constant stream of stone, allowing you to get at least a nice little supply. Won't be effective, still recommend people expand out on the map, but you won't be as hampered as well. Additionally, I want each Yovo able to garrison 1 relic. It is also a bit of a religious marker, and that way if you garrison a relic on the inside, let that relic provide stone income rather than gold. More reasons why to fetch relics, get more stone income. Additionally, since it's going to garrison 1, it means your relics are actually a bit more exposed and raidable in order to steal from your opponent. And now let's talk about the Pural Tent and what I would like to make changes to it. I would like the Pural Tent to be available in Age 2 for 200 wood. It also does automatically provide the Yovo ore naturally without need for upgrades, so you're not really constrained to building around the Yovo itself. Shamans will still be available in Age 3, so there's no early shaman, relics, sacred sites, or anything of that sort. Additionally, I would have the Tithe Barn upgrade as well as monistic shrines removed and replaced with 2 new upgrades. Stone Tithe, which will improve the stone collection rate of the Yovos by 50% per upgrade, and the cost would be costing food, wood, and gold 100 of each, 200 of each, or 300 of each. And one last upgrade in Age 4, Sacred Excavations. Sacred sites provide 100 stone income. And guess where that stone came from? It's literally the sacred sites itself. Now let's talk about the X2 units. There is a large amount of empty space and empty buttons in the UI. This is more or less a me thing, but I really would like to see that filled up, and this is how I actually will fill it up without making too many massive changes. All the massive changes. With the removal of the improved military academies, assume that all the stone units will have increased production speed, plus 50% production speed. This way, the improved military academies will be combined with the X1 and X2 units. Line 1, I would like to install X1 units. Simply units with 100% stone costs, with 50% faster production speed. Line 2, 2 units with 100% stone costs, with 50% faster production speed. So for example, Keshik does cost out 200 total resources. The X unit will be costing 200 stone. The X2 unit will cost 400 stone. Simple enough. This way, the improved military academies will be combined with the stone production units. As I mentioned beforehand, raid is not a reliable source of income. Initially, raid does not provide you much value, and the upgrades to make it much more valuable do cost quite a bit and not really worth the cost. I did mention beforehand the improved raid bounty is better than the regular raid bounties because you can convert stone into other resources. So I would like to see that aspect maximized. First, I would say the natural 25 golden food from raid bounties is removed, replaced with much cheaper, more accessible upgrades in the Yovo. The first upgrade will cost 100 stone, 200, 300, 400 stone for the step increases 1 per age, and will provide 25 of each resource. While it does progressively increase the cost, but as the game starts progressing, you're more likely to get progressively able to destroy more buildings with more units and battering rams. The upgrades I like to put is Raid, Ransack, Plunder, and Scourge. For the Mongols are referenced commonly as a Scourge. The complementary upgrade for the Raid Bounty upgrade was the additional torches, but that generally arrived too late in my opinion and cost quite significant. So I would say the additional torches should get the step upgrade treatment as well, arrive in Age 1, and then of course Age 2, Age 3, and Age 4 can give you some more effects, plus 4 torch damage per upgrade, in which I think the upgrade's name should be Burn, Destroy, Annihilation, and Genocide. Now let's clean up the Ovo, preferably without torches. First, I remove the Pax Mongolica, however you ever pronounce that. As you know, my pronunciations of everything is crap. Remove Court Architects to Blacksmith, reorganize the buttons of the Yovo, and I'm half thinking about perhaps maybe step upgrades for the Whistling Arrow, combined with maybe upgrades for the Khan, going from Hardened, Veteran, Elite. But at this point in time, that's probably a little bit too variable for me at this point in time, for you should see all the other recommendations I want to implement. And now to wrap up the last of the economic changes, let's talk about Silk Road. The idea of Silk Road is actually quite nice, plus a little bit of extra resources by having more traders. I'll keep the number of traders, but I want to convert it to stone. All the increases are to stone, which makes it so the Mongol have a bit more of accessible resource to spend on everything. With the new ×1 and ×2 buttons I recommend, they make it stone, the very hard inflexible resource, to a very flexible resource to be used everywhere. Additionally, I would say remove the Stone Commerce upgrade, potentially increase the Silk Road to have up to 20 traders for level 4 for plus 40% increased trade, but maybe that's a little bit too much. Additionally, the X1 and X2 traders move to the left panel from the right panel, just so it's a little bit more less dead space in the panels. I tend to put a lot of emphasis on the UI placement because I think a large number of games don't do it too well, such as Company 3 by using those buttons from Company 2, which is one reason why. Next up, let's talk about the Outpost. Yes, I would like to redo the Outpost. Right now, the Mongols' outposts honestly have a smaller model compared to the other civilizations' outposts, and always conveyed weakness to me with their design, to say the least. They're smaller, made completely out of wood, no stone reference. So I would like to actually make them more of a unique building. This is more or less a new thing. First, I would rename the outpost to Observation Post as a part of this new structure. Reduce the cost to 100 from 150, reduce the health to 500 from 750, so both have a 33% discount and effectiveness. Reduce the build time to 30 seconds. The original build time is 60 seconds, so that is actually a 50% build time reduction, making it so you can build these out a little bit more everywhere in order to support out your villagers among everything. Remove the Yam aura, remove the Yam upgrade. The weapon placements upgrades have been changed, primarily just to remove the stone costs, so there's less pull onto your stone. The arrow slip have its cost set to 50. The spring gold replacement has a 100 wood cost and 50 gold cost. Uses the cannon animator, as you can see right here, and a new Yam upgrade, which will replace the cannon placement for 50 wood, which will use a spring gold animator. Right there, that's the Spring Gold animator. In this way, the Yam Network Aura can be a separate little upgrade. The costs of the emplacements are dirt cheap compared to other outposts due to the lower base costs and health, and so this should make it a little bit of a more spammable outpost. Additionally, I would recommend the observation post villager garrison space, or garrison space in general, to reduce to 4 from 5, and that way you can build 2 of them quickly on the map and store 8 villagers at a certain location, such as collecting up deer, which 8 is like the magic number. Additionally, I would like to see infantry able to build these with the siege engineer upgrade. More on that later. Now on to the blacksmith. My biggest problem right now with it is the fact that the upgrade panel is incredibly messy. It is very congested on the left panel, and the right panel is a bit more sparse, but of course, just a little bit weird in all placement and everything. Even though it does cross-reference to the panel to the left, it just doesn't look all too right. So, I would recommend, say, some of the university techs are inside the blacksmith and be moved to the barracks and archer range and stable, elite army tactics to the barracks, and senior areas to the archer range, and biology to the stable. Additionally, then I can move the siege works onto the first line, right next to siege engineers. Now let's have some fun with the siege weapons. Mongols, and at least in Age of Empires 2, are also known for good siege. In this case, the Mongols have been known for good siege throughout history, so I would like to see a bit more intricacy into their siege. Siege engineers become a step upgrade. Beforehand, it was the improved version available in Feudal Age, believe it or not, for Castle Age units to be accessible in Castle Age seems a little bit off to me. Though honestly, it was actually quite nice, so you actually can have a timing attack with mangonels with your frontline infantry. But honestly, that was a little bit gimmicky, and in this case, it will generally be removed. The first upgrade will retain the standard wood and gold costs, but the follow-up upgrades will have the stone costs, one available per age, starting in Feudal Age, and grants different combinations of stuff. The level 1 upgrade I would like to see still retains the ram and the tower, the siege tower, get the new outpost, the observation post, infantry able to build palisade walls and palisade gates. Villagers still won't be able to build palisade walls or gates, but this could allow the Mongol a bit more flexibility in order to control the field with their siege works. Additionally, it will give them access to walls, basic walls, to help protect their trade, but the implication is, rather than being a settled civilization, these are infantry units placed on siege works to lay siege to your opponent. Additionally, level 2 of course will still retain building traction trebuchets, Magno, and Spring Gold, and the level 3 upgrade will give you access to field construct the Hui Hui Pao. Additionally, I would like to see Siege Works reworked. Siege Works is available in Age 4 to give you increased health and range armor, but instead I would like to see a more of a better version available starting in Feudal Age, which one upgrade per available per age. Do I need to continue saying the one upgrade available per age? Just assume that is the case, especially if you read on screen. You of course provide plus 10% health, plus 5 range armor, which will correlate with the total plus 10% health and 10 range armor the regular upgrade gets, but that of course can result in more health, more range armor to counterpart with the current live improved version. Also, I would like to convey 10% siege weapon cost, and that way the civilization best known for laying siege will have access to more siege. Now on to the Siege Workshop. Siege Workshop's upgrade panel / ×2 unit panel is incredibly messy and very congested. This I would definitely change drastically. First off, all the improved research are gone, but I'll reorganize everything. Assume on the right side there's still the X1 and X2 units, but all the upgrades move to the left side. First, I'll actually move the ram to the barracks. This will help give a bit more uniqueness to the Mongol barracks, and move the bombard into the same slot where the ram currently occupies. Additionally, I would like to see the Castle Age siege units to be a bit more effective for the Mongols. After all, they are the siege civilization, at least historically. More or less. The upgrades are splitting the improved variation, but making them earlier and a little bit more effective in Castle Age. So the improved effect currently in the live game is just simply available earlier, while the actual full upgrade is still later. The Spring Gold will have +1 range and +10% attack speed in Castle Age. The 500 stone cost in Age 4 does still reference the total resource cost of the Spring Gold upgrade in Age 4. Same thing with Magno and Trebuchet, so that still follows the same resource cost correlation. In Magno, I would like to see it get actually a bit of a range increase, making it incredibly effective against to support the infantry-based composition you're probably going to be accompanying the Magno. And the Traction Trebuchet upgrade will of course get a little bit extra range to go along with it. Additionally, I would say the Magno upgrade and the Trebuchet upgrades do affect the Nesabis and the Hui Hui Pao. And now onto the barracks. Overall, the Mongol infantry should remain a little bit more on the mediocre side, and I want to focus more of their siege support to go along with the infantry. So nothing super spectacular, powerful mana arms, just simply good escorts for the various siege weapons. This will make the barracks more of the siege faction of the Mongols. The battering rams will become available in Age 2 from this structure, and also get step upgrades as well. It basically takes the lightweight beams improved and regular lightweight beams and split across all 3 ages with more or less countering costs, 150, 350, and 700. This of course improve the construction speed and attack speed of the ram, making it just a little bit more effective in Age 2 as well as Age 3, as opposed to the final version most civilization gets in Age 4. The armor tactics also becomes available to research in the bottom left spot. And now, time for the part that most people are probably anticipating, the Archer Age, probably more particular for the Magadai. But let's first start from the top. There will be a new upgrade that replaces the Sheer Bow Limbs upgrade and the Improve upgrade. Assume the Sheer Bow Limbs is completely replaced by this upgrade. This new upgrade increases the range of archers, Magadai, and the Khan by 0.5 per upgrade. Effectively can give you access to 6.5 range archers in Imperial Age and improve your Magadai archer range up to 6. This way your archers have a bit more effectiveness, more focus on the mass production of the cheaper archers and rather higher quality of the crossbowmen or hand cannoneers later on in the game. The named upgrade will be Self Bow, which is like a basic term for a self-made bow, Geo Bow Limbs to reference the current upgrade, and Step War Bow. Additionally, if possible, I would like to see animators, so the basic archer will have like a basic bow, and then the improved bows and models will be implemented as these researches are completed, similar to, say, the Holy Empire's mana arms, blood weapons, and two-handed weapons. Additionally, incendiary arrows will be researched right here, and Magadai, time for the rework that you all want me to mention. I will increase attack speed to 1.62, which is the same as regular archers. Damage increased to 10 with the veteran in elite upgrades to 13 and 16, and the range increase of 4.5. This effectively makes the Magadai a ×2 archer for twice the cost, without the bonus damage, but increased mobility and fire on the move. Relatively simple, able to hit more heavily armored targets a little bit better. In theory, this could be pretty good. Maybe the range of 4.5 is too much since the archer base range is 5. So maybe 4 will be adequate, but 3.5 is just simply too short. I don't know the exact range. Maybe 4.25 is the magic number. But I would at least want to see the damage increased and attack speed reduced, so it can hit more heavily armed targets better. This also makes it so that the high rate attack speed of the Sheer Bow Limbs and the Incendiary Arrow Bows combo would actually be nerfed, but the higher base damage will help counteract that. After all, imagine the Blacksmith research getting up to 19 plus the 20% increase of Incendiary Arrows would make the damage quite decent. And now let's talk about the stable. The early Horseman was a very niche unit that was only good in mirror matchups, more or less how the Magadai is. It almost looks like Mongols are effective versus Mongols, but not really super effective at anything else. So in actuality, I will remove the early Horseman, but reuse that model for later on. More on that later. Staff Lancer, the upgrade, I would like to have step upgrades for it starting Age 2, which each upgrade increases the attack speed by 10% and health per strike by 1%, which counter mimics the current Step Lancer but allows one additional level. Additionally, I want the Step Lancer upgrade to also be applied to regular horsemen and scouts. The regular horsemen will of course get a bit of buff. In Pural Age, they'll still be inferior to Sipahi, but they will still be very good as a flanking unit. Why apply it to scouts? Because I will expect the attack speed also to be applied to torches, allowing the horsemen and scouts to be both more effective at raiding structures rather than trying to raid the villagers, trying to utilize those structures, making a raid bounties a bit more effective as well. Additionally, biology is researched here. And now on to the first of the landmarks, the Deer Stone. The Deer Stone historically is more or less a religious landmark where apparently animal sacrifices may have taken place. It is a little bit vague from what I've read, but with the whole Yam network change and replaced, I want the Deer Stone replaced with be a unique pasture. In this way, the Mongols do have an early eco landmark that's actually a bit more reasonable. Why not spawn deer, herdable deer for the Deer Stone? I feel like that is a little bit too close to the high trade house of the Rus, and it does match with the sheep and the pastures, so let's leave it at that. Additionally, I would like to see a handful of unique research to help improve the sheep. They're cheap for relatively small effects. Additionally, I would say the Yovo should not be affecting the Deer Stone. So let's talk about those unique research. Wool collection. Each living sheep provide 1 wood per second. Increase, have 3 step upgrades go along with it. So if you get a good number of living sheep, it can give you a nice little trickle of wood. In this way, the Deer Stone can provide you sheep. Passively, you start claiming up the resources on the map, whether it be deer or berries or boar. In this way, you can get a nice little trickle of sheep stockpiled up, provide a little bit of wood generation, and then when it's time to collect the sheep, you can start getting have a nice little stockpile. Selective breeding. Improve the sheep carcass's food capacity by 50. Sheep naturally has 150. 3 step upgrades of 50. Put it up to 400. Seemed okay. This will effectively reduce the number of pastures required to build. And capacity. Improves the maximum sheep capacity by 20. The standard capacity is 30, so in theory, if you get all 3 research, you have a maximum of 100 sheep. In theory, with 3 wood per second, you could potentially get 300 wood per second from sheep. Granted, assume you're not collecting the sheep. This may make it sound like the Deer Stone is actually a wood landmark rather than a food landmark. And honestly, it is. This will make it so your pastures cost less, your sheep provide wood, making it so you can get, say, more pastures or other things, thus less toll on your wood, and more sheep to do such things. It's really a wood landmark disguising itself as a food landmark. Additionally, this should be actually a reasonable landmark to put on full naval maps, able to get a little bit of wood generation for your ships. The reason why I also say wool collection can be used as wood, after all, wool could be a counterpart to threading other than trying to make rope from various plant material. To me, it's always seemed strange how the Mongols do not have an Age 2 landmark to produce military units. Civilizations that do have access to a landmark like that, such as the English's Council Hall or the French School of Cavalry, offer them quite a bit of aggression capability because they get a free barracks or stable or archery range in order to produce such military units. Let's change this. The Kurultai is now going to be the Age 2 landmark. Strangely enough, in the game's files, the Kurultai is actually labeled as Age 2 landmark in the name of the file, while the Silver Tree is actually named as Age 3 landmark. So somehow I came to the same conclusion as the original developers for creating these landmarks. The Kurultai will now be a unique stable with unique research. It can only build units in stone, so you still have to acquire ovos, not as flexible as the a riding school, or a council hall for immediate unit production. So you probably want to have to eye for a Yovo before you start constructing this if you want to immediately spawn out some units. I will also make it so it does not have the X2 units, only the X1 units, but does not require an Yovo to get the access to that production. And we'll have the following units. It will have a unique unit, the Steppe Raider, maybe potentially call it the Tarkin to reference the Age of Empires 2 Tarkin unit. It is going to use the early Horseman skin, and it's going to be a hybrid between the Roots Militia and the Malian Warrior Scout. It will use early Horseman skin, cost 90 stone in reference to the Malian Warrior Scout, getting automatic upgrades per age like the Roots Militia, but will still keep the same animator. Health will mirror the Malian Warrior Scout, the damage will mirror the Malian Warrior Scout, the attack speed will mirror a regular Horseman, but does not get bonus damage like the Malian Warrior Scout, nor health regen. It will use the top left spot on the production panel. Right below it, I would like to have a ×5 Steppe Raider batch for 400 stone, a discount for a bunch of cheap, weak horsemen. And to go along with the rest of the spots, we've got the Steppe Lancer, which mimics the same spot as the Steppe Lancer in the stable, the Scout, and the Magadai, which also does cross-reference the same spot as the Magadai in the archer range, being spot number 4. The unique research I would like to implement is called Medium Cavalry. All light cavalry get +2 armor, so it does not affect the Keshik, but does affect the Horseman, the Steppe Raider, as well as the Magadai. The Steppe Lancer upgrade will also be available, the bow upgrades as well, and the unit upgrades are also available in this structure for the Keshik, the Magadai, as well as the Scout. The Silver Tree currently is a double-edged sword, so how would I adjust it? Well, seeing now the Mongol infantry can also build walls, which will help to provide some protection for the traders, as well as build outposts to provide more protection for the traders. I would recommend the Silver Tree, now an Age 3 landmark, builds the traders for absolutely free. The maximum number should be perhaps 20, maybe build them slower, as well as have a separate little cap or model from the regular traders. This way you get a large amount of resources collecting without doing all too much, but it will take some time for these resources to start generating. 1, traders have to move, 2, they have to spawn, and they could be spawned at a slower rate than regular traders, but it can be a nice economic landmark for Age 3 as compared to the other landmark I shall talk about. In the live game, the Mongols do have 2 gold landmarks, the Steppe Redoubt and the Silver Tree. Clearly there should only be 1 gold landmark per civilization when it comes to the level ages up. So let's change the Steppe Redoubt. The word redoubt means something similar to fortress or fort, but I don't want to install a keep for the Mongols. Additionally, I don't know if the Steppe Redoubt will be fitting as a defensive keep due to how the structure sort of looks, having big open holes along the side. So I want to make it into a defensive landmark to provide the Mongol infantry more siege works. And this in the form of stone outposts. This will replace the Pax Mongolica with a unique outpost variant for them to build. These new outposts will have 2,000 health and 5 fire armor, making them much more resilient. Additionally, they will have 6 garrison space, so the villagers can hide away a little bit better than. So 2 outposts next to a gold deposit on the field can offer some good protection. Additionally, I would have them have a 2-minute build time rather than a standard outpost 1-minute build time, because these are going to be much more healthier and actually a bit more cost effective than standard stone outposts. Stone outpost with the fortified outpost upgrade does have 1,750 health, so having your infantry units take a longer time to build them would make sense. They will have 4 different outposts, all of them available out of the box. Don't have to worry about building one and getting an upgrade, and this way I can have a 1 extra variation of this outpost rather than having the plain to be upgraded model. The plain to would have been the plain up to be upgraded model will be the Yam outpost. Simply has those windows. It's the one in the back corner on the picture. The arrow slit one is the one in the front corner, for 200 stone and an arrow analyzer slip. Also, I want the keep arrow damage, a single keep arrow damage, to be applied for this outpost here. So the arrow slit version will actually have a bit more use in Castle Age when most people just go for the Spring Gold upgrades in Castle Age. This will also make it so it's a bit cheaper to deploy on the field to help protect the villagers rather than trying to provide extra damage. Spring Gold variation will have 200 stone and 150 gold. Use the Spring Gold animator, which is the right one on the image, and a cannon variant available in Age 4, however, for 200 stone and 350 gold, which is the left variant. All these outposts do cost at least 200 stone, so it does enter stone reply, but they do give a good alternative to keeps. Mentioned beforehand, the White Stupa is not that great compared to the Cognic Palace, though most people do go for the White Stupa so they get extra stone for all their outposts to defend their trade. Seeing I believe I have that more or less addressed better, we can make a bit more power into the White Stupa. This time, it will have 5 relic garrison space, which will be a good counterpart to the Yovo's single relic garrison space. The relics will provide 100% extra stone income, which would be a good alternative to the Regnese Cathedral to the Holy Roman Empire. And the stone income, not the relic income, will increase with prayer tent research. So if you get that research going, you can have more stone to go with stone landmark. So promoting you to get the Yovo research, whether it be sooner or later. And now on the Cognic Palace. I mentioned beforehand, this is my favorite landmark, or I was at least what I consider the best landmark in the entire game. And go ahead and get more selective variety. Beforehand, it gives you a random sort of units. Now I want it so it's choosable which unit it does produce. I do still try to retain the 800 resources per minute with some variation. Line 1, 3 Roost Knights, 3 Roost Warrior Monks as opposed to just 2. They do have all the upgrades on the Abbey Trinity, so you can perhaps get more of the Monk or Shaman research earlier on, and get some really tanky supporting heavy cav or light cav to go along with your cavalry. And 5 Turkic Horse Archers, which are going to be reworked to be fully upgraded Magadai without any need for researching the bow research. This way you can get the Horse Archers without needing to get the Magadai research in order to make them comparable. Additionally, you can access the Turkic Horse Archers, the skin at least, could be used in multiplayer. Line 2, the 6 Palace Guards in 60 seconds, 3 Grenadiers in 6 seconds, which can give you a good alternative backline to your frontline infantry, or 10 Chinese villagers for 60 seconds, which may sound like a lot, but overall the value they provide initially is less than the other options, which are just straight military units, but 10 villagers in 60 seconds is still very nice to have. In line 3, 1 Hui Hui Pao for 60 seconds, and 1 Nest of Bees in 60 seconds. Nest of Bees is affected by the various Maganel research, which actually can give it quite a bit extra range to work with on the field. So don't shy away from the Nest of Bees variation. So, my final thoughts and summary. The village economy will be greatly improved, allowing more eco-based play. Stone becomes a bit more accessible and flexible, which is also counterproductive to the concept of stone. Unit quality is actually decreased while versatility is increased. Primarily with the infantry, without the improved elite army tactics, they will actually receive a quality decrease. The ability to build fortifications and perhaps build some proxy outposts, provide some fire support is now a possibility. Additionally, the improved biology research has been removed, so the Keshiks will receive less health, but they of course receive more damage with more improved step lancers. Horsemen will receive a massive improvement with actually being affected by step lancers and multiple levels of them, get even a little bit health back upon strike, so they become a good supplementary unit. The improved penalty academies replace faster X1, X2 production. The cheaper quality units will have increased quality with the step lancers as mentioned before, but also with the archers and the various bow upgrades. In the end, I will see likely 2 primarily build paths for people to play with. You got the cavalry focus with the Pural Age to provide some immediate cavalry pressure, and Silver Tree to help provide some more gold and stone to go along with that. And the infantry and siege composition, with the Deerstone being selected first to get a nice stable colony back at home, not relying on resources so much on the map since you don't have the cavalry to help police the map, and a separate out to give some extra powerful siege towers to help proxy out your opponent. There is, of course, quite a bit of variability. I'm also asking for quite a bit of changes, so who knows how this go. It may seem overpowered, but the more and more look at it, I don't think all these changes will be overpowered. Some aspects could possibly need to be toned down, but these are just my opinions on how the Mongols should be reworked. If you have any other further opinions of your own, go ahead and post in the comments below. Additionally, please go ahead and play a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel or whatever platform you're currently viewing this on, because I'm going to try to really promote this video to other people. I would like to see the Mongols reworked, at least in some manner or fashion, because right now, I don't think the Mongols are a good state in Age of Empires 4. So everyone, thank you for watching, have a good day, and get some good rest, and I'll see you in the next replay.